Can someone please tell me what the hell is going on with this season already? I'm very confused and it's very frightening, and it's also interesting and scary and exciting and every other vocabulary word under the sun to describe such a thing. We had a team once that was competing for podiums and first place finishes in the name of Ferrari, and now they're struggling to be a midfield team. They might as well be struggling through with their Zimmer frames, trying to push through the crowd and not really getting anywhere, but still trying their darned hardest. And we look at them and we think, oh. Out of nowhere, it seems we have Racing Point, who decided, you know what, that Mercedes looks proper good, that is. That Mercedes is wow good. I think we're missing a trick. I think we need to just take a peek at the little Mercedes over there and just write a few notes. Mercedes is unbeatable at this point. We all know. They have not just proven that they're as fast as they were last year, they are dominating the tracks right now. It's amazing. It really is. It's amazing. But then the sport's amazing. However, amongst all that, what we're here to talk about today is Red Bull. And not just Red Bull, but more specifically, our mate Alex Albon. I say mate, he doesn't fucking know I exist. But we're talking about him, Alex Albon. Safe to say it was a pretty shaky race weekend for Red Bull. Both drivers were complaining about stability issues the entire weekend. I'm surprised one of them didn't bin it.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
That is, the weekend goes from bad to worse for Max Verstappen.
Albon definitely wasn't happy with his qualifying performance. He put it down to a bad drive, but also he wasn't happy with the fact that his team at Red Bull let him out on track while there was traffic around. Now, after the qualifying, George Russell did an interview with Sky, and during that interview he spoke about Albon, and he said that Albon was being made to look like an idiot.
There's something going on with that Red Bull, isn't there? You know, it's just not the Red Bull we know.
I mean, I've known Alex for the last, 15 years, been in the same paddock as him. He's one of the best drivers we all race. Max, Charles, all of us will say it. He's always been at the front in everything he's done, and I don't know what the hell is going on. And I feel really, really bad for him because he's being made to look like an idiot, and he's absolutely not. And he's won in everything he's done. So I don't know what's going on, but they need to sort it out for him.
Yeah, good.
Max weren't too happy with what Georgie Boy had to say and quickly called him out, saying that he should focus on his own performance in team first rather than commentating on theirs. Now, this little drama, this little bit of discussion in the paddock caused a lot of talk about Albon online and his future and current status at Red Bull. Russell and Albon have been friends and known each other and raced with each other for many years, so there's no doubt that they talk to each other behind the scenes about their concerns and praises about their teams. It begs the question whether if Albon has felt frustrated with Red Bull recently and hence has spoken to George about it, and now that's why he's saying what he said at the interview. Some people have asked the question, is Albon at risk of getting kicked from Red Bull? I mean, he qualified P13 in the Hungarian Grand Prix. That's not good for a Red Bull car. But again, we can't assume and just speculate. We have to look at the facts and data that we are presented with. And if we're going into having a look at data, we're going to have to put on our analysis hat. I think it suits me. Look, it's even got for extra brain power. You turn it and you get more IQ. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, let's take a look at Albon in the Austrian Grand Prix, shall we? Let's go through some of Albon's past races and compare that to Verstappen's previous teammate at Red Bull, Pierre Gasly, and see where he stacks up. In the Austrian GP, Albon qualified 5th and was on track for taking first place, but all hope of a podium faded in an instant where he came into contact with the inevitable Hamilton. Again. For the second time. In the end, Albon finished in 13th place, while his teammate had a DNF because of engine troubles. In the Styrian Grand Prix, held again at the Red Bull Ring, he qualified 7th, and then during the race he finished 4th, which was about as good as it could have gotten for that race for Red Bull. Now let's compare that to 2019, where Pierre Gasly qualified 9th place at the Red Bull Ring. He then went on to finish 7th in the race. It's worth noting that he was considerably off the pace to his teammate Verstappen, who ended up winning the race. In Hungary, Albon qualified in P13. However, he went on to finish the race in a solid P5. Compare that to Pierre Gasly's performance in Hungary in 2019, who qualified in P6 and retained that position and ended the race also in P6. Now you might think, well, you can't really compare this year's car to last year's car. It's not really a fair comparison. And to that I'd say, yeah, you're correct. So let's have a look at the 2019 season and compare when both drivers raced for Red Bull. If we look at all the races, we see that when Albon raced for Red Bull, he never finished a race below P6, apart from the infamous race at Brazil, where, again, he came into contact with Hamilton. In quite a few cases, he either finished a race that Verstappen didn't, such as Suzuka or Spa, and in the case of Monza the Mexican GP, he finished ahead of his teammate. From this we can see that Albon might not be getting the podium finishes, but he's very consistently good in the points, where past Red Bull drivers weren't. This is great for Red Bull as constructors. Comparing that to Pierre Gasly, who often qualified below P5 and sometimes even P10 and below. However, despite this, there's no doubt that Red Bull have enormous preferential treatment for Verstappen, and anyone who is his teammate knows they're being treated as second best to him. In the recent Netflix series Drive to Survive, Christian Horner is seen consolidating Gasly after some of his worst races, being very polite and almost reassuring he'll get better and just needs time. However, when Gasly's back turned, Horner completely rips into him in the garage. Now, I'm not trying to speculate anything, but after Red Bull yeeting two of its drivers in a short space of time, you have to wonder how they're treating their drivers. So, from this, how safe a seat does Alex Albon have in Red Bull? There's no doubt that Albon is absolutely deserving of a Formula 1 seat. He came third in the Formula Renault 2.0 Cup, came second in the GP3 series, and came third in the Formula 2 Championships in 2018, behind Lando Norris and George Russell. There's no question he is deserving of that Formula 1 seat. There are plenty of people before him who have come with less to their name. There's no doubt of consistency in his point scoring either. In my opinion, he's pretty safe. He's a consistent point scorer and makes for a good second driver. He has off qualifying days, of course, but 90% of his race days are pretty solid. And he doesn't have a habit of binning the car either. As we all know, Sebastian Vettel is homeless at the end of the season, and Albon hasn't signed a contract with Red Bull yet, so technically there is still a seat available at Red Bull. This could well be a factor into the mental game for Albon. He knows you're only as good as your last race, and that's especially true for Red Bull, as others have found out. From what we saw of Albon in the Hungarian Grand Prix, that mental pressure and frustration might be starting to build on him. He knows he has to be consistent, and he knows he has to do that enough to prove to Red Bull that they shouldn't have a doubt about him. This frustration would only be amplified if he felt Red Bull was untreating him fairly and not giving him the opportunities that he should in the first place to prove himself. So overall, that's what I make of the Albon situation. I think he's pretty safe, and I'm pretty sure we can see him staying with Red Bull. And that's really it for my first video on this channel. It's a bit strange, I know, I'm still getting to the hang of it, but I hope you all stick around and join us for our next video. I stream every good few days, and on race weekends we tend to do like a live commentary, so feel free to come along if that's your thing. Join in, have fun, it will be a laugh. But thank you. If you like this, you want to stick around, hit subscribe and stay in the loop. So thank you very much. Peace. Can we all ignore the fact that I put pink eyeshadow on my eyes for Racing Point and I wrote Stroll on my hand because I was going to practice writing Stroll on my forehead? Why do I do these things? Why am I here? What is going on? Who the fuck knows? I don't know. That's my sink. See my sink? That's my sink. I have a sink in my room. I am far superior than you because I have a sink in my room. Let that sink in. Funny.